Thank you so much for having me, Jen.
So, Brad, tell us about your journey. How in the world did you come up with this brilliant idea to pair founders with funders and inspire funders to sign this mental health pledge? Tell us.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for having me. Can I tee up the audience with something really quick? Is that okay?
100%.
A quick question. I want to see just like a quick show of hands. Is anyone in the room a founder or knows a founder who struggled with their mental health, whether it's anxiety, depression, severe stress? Okay, that's quite a bit for those watching at home, aka my girlfriend. We have a lot of hands, so I think that's just helpful context for how we sort of have this fireside chat. I think to answer your question, the sort of genesis of this was my time spent as a venture capitalist at a fund in Chicago. I had an opportunity to get close with. Is this thing still on? We're good. Perfect. I had an opportunity to get close with founders, and some of them became personal friends of mine. And what I was able to see was beyond the attending the Forbes Under 30 and going to conferences and pretending like everything is constantly up and to the right. There's a lot of struggle and suffer and pain there, and for good reason. Like building a company is hard, as we know. Like it's not an exercise in kumbaya and chill. It takes hustle, and so when I left venture, I met a guy named Naveed, who's the co-founder of the Pledge, who you know, and Alan, of course. And it was around the time when Silicon Valley Bank experienced the collapse that I told Naveed, hey, I've had this idea for a while, which is sort of sitting in my notes app on my iPhone collecting dust, and it's called the Founder Mental Health Pledge. And so we get to talking about it. I explain, sort of how I perceived it could grow and hopefully make impact. And Naveed, as you know Naveed, we say Naveed he suffers from a syndrome called Naveed speed. He's just like immediately, let's do it. He's like, send it to me now. He throws it on a Google Doc. 2 weeks later, it's Brad Feld's writing an article. Forbes picked it up. A few other, I think there's some slide that speaks to it. But it sort of just exploded. And why? Not because we did anything so crazy or mind-blowing, I don't think. I think it's that a lot of people resonate with this because there's a lot of suffering in silence, both in society broadly, but then certainly within a culture which is pervasive with hustle. It's all about hustle and grind. And not to say it's not. It very much is. You need to do that as a founder. But the question I ask and would hope that future founders would consider is how can you hustle responsibly? And what part does a venture capital funder play in that sort of response? What responsibility do they have? And in my humble opinion, or probably not so humble, I think they play a large role and have one of the loudest voices in the room, and we can get into why that is.
So this gentleman and his team have been successful in getting over 300 venture capitalists to sign this pledge. You have them sign a pledge, but in the term sheet, it says what when they're agreed to support a founder. This is profound.
Yeah, no, thank you. So there's sort of two buckets I would distinguish in. There's the pledge, which is what we started with, and I think we recognized there's not necessarily strong teeth there. The sort of intention was to create a broadly available public display of which funds believe that this is important and are willing to take a stance and say, hey, founder mental health matters. I run around all day as a VC saying, we back the jockey, not the horse, founder friendly, it's all about the founder, all these nice sayings.
Right.
And I was sort of like, well, I was like, I'm going to call bullshit if unless you sign, like I will muscle you into signing this pledge if you're going to stand up and say that everywhere, because put your money where your mouth is. And I also think there's a fiduciary component to it where if you build, and you guys speak a lot to this, is if you have founders who are thriving, who aren't, and this is a real story, crying on their bathroom floor before their Monday all hands, you're going to have better companies, and it's going to lead to financial. So whether you only care about this from a financial standpoint, that's fine, but you should care about it.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember what question you asked me, but I'm just getting
That was
all.
beautiful. So tell us, for founders who are looking to see what venture capitalists have signed this pledge, what is the URL that they should go to?
Oh, look at promoting.
That's what I'm here to
Founderpledge.com.
do. Say it
Appreciate
again.
Founderpledge.com. You can go there and you can check out who both founders and VCs who have joined the pledge. And then now I remember what you asked. The clause is a separate initiative where I think we've got 25 or so funds have actually put legalese in their term sheet. So the legal contract you sign with a founder when you're going to deploy capital into their company outright says in it, I'll paraphrase the terminology, but you can go on the site and see it. What it's saying is, at your discretion, invest some of the capital that we invest into your company into your mental health, whether that's a Day to Breathe, which I very highly recommend, or it's a therapist, a coach, a gym membership. At your discretion, allocate capital because we believe that that's going to build the biggest company. So if I do, I should hear no pushback. I could actually just say, look at the contract.
Yeah.
And so we've been inspired that more than a handful of funds have picked it up, and I think it's important that we hopefully in a perfect world that's sort of table stakes for a term sheet. That would be amazing.
Phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. It's so profound in our community. So you've had a Day to Breathe. Tell us about that experience, and then share with us as we end that the direction that you're now going, having built this incredible nonprofit. You've got it off to the races, and you've got this incredible support, but you've been on a mental health journey of your own that now is like me, where I have said for over 20 years, this happened to me. I now have the privilege with the Day to Breathe and the Soulful Network and the Butterfly Effect Fund that actually this happened for me. This had to happen to me in order for this to be stepping into what we're doing together. And in a similar vein, that's exactly what's happening with you. You are starting your own company. So in the weaving of the Day to Breathe and that stepping up and into this new for-profit, speak to us in that regard.
Sure. So I'd say one that the Day to Breathe is a perfect example of which there are other programs and other conduits to achieving this. But what you guys built, and I experienced it myself, was an opportunity to for lack of instead of breathe it, like take a step back. For me, it was like reorient around my priorities and a lot of what we've already heard here today was sort of packaged in a way that, at least I'll speak for myself, was very digestible. And so that would be an example, and we've obviously talked between us about different ways to collaborate, of a way for a founder to care for their mental health is get involved in a program like this. For me in my own journey, so I spoke a bit about like the venture journey, my Vulture Capital days, and now I'm a good guy. Now, so fast forward, I end up founding a company, Stance Health.
Can I just say I'm so grateful that you used the Vulture Capital word and I didn't have to.
Oh, there you go. Venmo me after this.
I love it.
So it was then building Stance Health. I had my own mental health struggle, which I guess shouldn't have been a surprise to me, given what I was already doing at the pledge. But you sort of, and maybe it's when you're young, it's like, yeah, for them, but like not me. Yeah. And sure enough, I experienced it, and it was a struggle. And I'm fortunate to have support of therapy and close family and friends. My co-founder has been amazing. But it really just further accelerated. And I'll share that sentiment that you mentioned is like, it feels in retrospect now like that needed to happen. And so it's only fueled my desire to continue to grow the pledge and the impact it has. And we're doing that across research with Stanford and King's College and some grant making opportunities and a variety of programming. And, I struggle just in general with like focus. And so what I want to do is dial in, like, here are 2 or 3. You guys have done an excellent job of being like, here's what we care about. There's some other great stuff, but we need to master this. And so I sort of look up to you guys in the respect of we don't want to boil the ocean. Like, what can we do really well? And then what can we partner with folks on? And yeah,
that's beautiful. What exactly are you building today?
Yeah. So what I'm building today is a company called Stance Health. It's focused at the intersection of chronic pain and mental health. So there's 67 million Americans in pain. My twin brother and mom were one of them. both suffer with severe chronic pain, migraines, my twin, chronic, you name it. And then my older brother, unfortunately, went down what is an all too common journey. It's been kicked off probably 5 times since you and I have been sitting here, which is that opiates are still very much the front line for chronic pain, leads to addiction all too commonly. And you know, my family vacation was what rehab my brother was at, and overdose and all sorts of stuff. And thank God he's doing incredibly now.
Awesome.
But that journey happens all the time. So we're trying to both, we hire therapists, train them in chronic pain, in chronic pain psychological interventions developed by Stanford, the VA, and Johns Hopkins. And then we enable them to meet with patients, most of them whom are referred by all sorts of physician types, whether it's, we see a lot of pelvic floor pain and TMJ and back pain, knee pain, et cetera, headaches. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
So, and then yesterday he came in for today's event and met earlier in the day with a prospective investor. And in that very meeting, he got them to sign up. So we're really proud of what you're building now in this deep, dark world of chronic pain for so many people. So closing the loop as it pertains to the Founders Mental Health Pledge, what would you wish that, you know, in advice, the advice you could give to both the founders and the funders, specifically the advice you would give?
To both groups?
Yes.
I think the advice, so I would say to founders
Okay.
is hustle responsibly. So it's not kumbaya and it's going to be easy, it's going to suck. But how can you make it suck a little bit less and hustle responsibly?
Okay.
And also have confidence in caring for your mental health and feel empowered to look at your board member, your angel investor and say, I got to run, I have therapy. And that's a flex. And so to the investors, I would say recognize whether it's because you see that there's a financial component to caring about this, or you believe it's the right thing to do altruistically. I think particularly relevant when you've been a founder before becoming a VC. Buy into this, share it with your investor friends, and be what I would say is like the best board members are more like therapists, not clinically trained enough, but be a steward of mental wellness and a place where founders can be vulnerable. Instead of saying, "Can I get your income and balance sheet and I'll talk to you next quarter?" It's like, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Super ambassadors to support the founder's journey. Wouldn't that be incredible if we all had that?